gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, Shadow Realm? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
Meanwhile, new data shines a light on just how much Chicago has been spending to support the migrant mission so far. Just over 13,000 asylum seekers are living in city shelters.
The city says they are preparing for a spike, though it's not clear how they'd pay for it. CBS 2's Sabrina Franza is live for us in the newsroom trying to sort it all out. Sabrina?
Joe, if it feels confusing tracking the spending, the amount of money the city has spent, the state has given, how much the federal government has contributed, that's because it is. The city has been trying to save money where it can, but right now they just can't get those numbers to act.
We're currently, actually every day, we're in meetings, on calls with the state and with the county.
In a migrant briefing this week,
To figure out what the long-term plan is to get through the calendar year together.
city leaders were asked once again about their plans to pay for the migrant crisis once the money runs out.
So the citizens of Chicago are concerned about the migrant crisis, and rightfully so. However, this is not the migrant crisis, the illegal super burrito gremlin crisis, that is. This is exactly what they voted for. This is exactly what they asked for. This is exactly what they demanded. So, like I said, I don't feel bad for these people whose taxpayer dollars are going toward these illegal super burrito gremlin aliens, okay? And this thing is only going to get worse. It's only going to heat up. It's only going to continue. And honestly, I think that these leftist cities should get everything that they asked for. Everything that they asked for. Because, you know, this is a situation that was caused by the way that they voted.
Numbers show the city has spent a total of $194.5 million on migrant-related vendors since October of 2022. That doesn't include the cost of city agencies and their work on the migrant mission, like how much it's costing to educate school-aged new arrivals. Of those vendors, though, the Kansas-based company, Favored Healthcare Staffing, continues to be the highest paid, making $126 million since the mission started. The cost paid mostly by the state, the remainder split between the city and federal government. A few days ago, the city amended their contract with Favored Staffing for a second time. Now their contract is for approximately $150 million over the course of 1 year. Notable because in the city's budget, $150 million is the same number allocated for the entire fiscal year.
Wow.
The city is hoping the state continues to pay and the federal government will step in. Governor Pritzker has said he plans to put about 2,000 beds somewhere, though it's still not clear where that will be or when it'll happen.
Would that be one of the things that we're looking at to help alleviate how much the city is spending?
We're currently in discussions about how they might be able to apply that, whether it is standing up a new shelter inside or outside of Chicago, or if it's taking over the costs of shelters in Chicago.
Now, the city estimates it's been able to cut food costs down by using new vendors from around $22 a day to about $16 a day per person. Again, this is just a drop.
$16 too much
In the bucket with no answer about a long-term solution yet. In the newsroom, Sabrina Franza, CBS 2 News.
Sabrina, thank you.
Today, food was delivered to families staying in this South Shore building. In recent days, 57 Venezuelans moved into this building on South Essex. That's according to Chris Amator, who says he owns the building.
I just decided, hey, I got the heat on, I got gas, I got electric, water. I go, let's fill them and we'll worry about the details later.
Over the last 9 days,
He's definitely getting a check from the state or the city. Gotta be.
Amator says he felt moved to offer shelter in his vacant apartments after visiting the city's landing center and a shelter for new arrivals.
I saw 5-year-olds with no jackets on the streets. You know, I was taking my jacket off, putting it on them, and I'm like, tomorrow's going to be -14. I'm like, what's going on?
Amator says over the last 9 days, He, his family, and a couple of volunteers have taken in 448 adults and children at 15 of his residential buildings. Some neighbors posted video of the building on Essex, alleging people were breaking into the building and that the building was not safe.
It's frustrating.
Veronica Cotton is a lifelong South Shore resident and new business owner. But she shares she and her sons were homeless a couple of years ago, and they didn't get the help they needed.
Not saying that it's not right to help them, but it's not right for others not to get help as well.
Amator tells us there was no break-in on Essex. While he acknowledges his impromptu efforts to help new arrivals was not the most organized, today we even saw windows being unboarded. But he says he wanted to do something.
I just decided to submit my free will and do God's plan, and I feel that, you know, I'm just going to keep doing what is right, and wherever the chips fall, that's not up to me.
Amator challenges other building owners to step up during this crisis.
Expecting 4 buses filled with asylum seekers today. However, only one of those buses has applied for a permit. The number of migrants awaiting placement has been increasing daily this week as border crossings with Mexico have been reopened. And both Republicans and Democrats in the nation's capital point the blame at each other for the record numbers coming across the border.
Elizabeth Matthews is at the Chicago.
So they're blaming Republicans. Oh, my God. It's insane, bro. It's insane. Dog. They want Republicans to be responsible for this so bad when it's so obvious that these Democrats have completely destroyed our country in less than 3 years.
A landing zone with a message from the White House. Elizabeth?
Yeah, guys, the White House admits that the number of border crossings is now historic. But they also say they need Congress to sign off on more funding for places like Chicago and for those arriving at places like this, the city's landing zone. So the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois has received tens of millions of dollars for migrant placement. But still, Mayor Brandon Johnson says that they need more funding. They need more dollars to help as more migrants filter in. Just today, you mentioned it, 4 more buses expected, only one with a permit to drop off. There are currently more than 14,000 migrants in shelters across the city. The spokesperson for Department of Homeland Security says they continue to crack down on illegal crossings, working with the migrants. But short term, they need more money to help protect the border.
At the end of the day, we know that the system is broken. We need Congress to take action.
Yeah, because y'all ass broke it. It's crazy, man.
We've already provided the city of Chicago $19 million, roughly $42 million for the entire state of Illinois.
And the craziest thing is the solution to this issue is all of the solutions to all of the ailments that are destroying our country are common sense, basic solutions.
And part of what this supplemental bill calls for is additional funding to be able to continue to provide some support for these cities and communities.
He adds that Homeland Security doesn't just welcome all who cross the border. He says that last year in 2023, they removed or expelled 1.2 million people who crossed the border who didn't have the proper authorization. At the city's landing zone, Elizabeth Matthews, Fox 32, Chicago.
In less than a week, about 1,900 migrants will be forced to move out of Chicago shelters after the Johnson administration extended its 60-day eviction policy twice over winter weather concerns. February 1st is the new deadline. Mutual aid volunteer Annie Gomberg is trying to help migrants who have received this notice from the city.
They are in a complete panic. Every person who gets one of these notices doesn't understand what this means for them and their family because the plan is so convoluted and doesn't make any sense.
Mutual aid groups and 17 city council members led by Alderman Andre Vasquez sent a letter to Mayor Brandon Johnson urging him to either throw out the 60-day eviction policy or delay it.
Rather than having something that's so tumultuous that you're moving it back every couple of weeks, we think it's fair for the mayor to say, you know what, we're going to pause and reevaluate in April or May when it's warmer.
The Johnson administration says it will continue to evaluate the policy. When asked about the alderman letter at a homeless event last night, Mayor Johnson responded by defending how much he has already done.
I mean, how many more shelters am I going to be asked to open?
as many as these illegal aliens need, because now they pretty much trump your constituents, because Brandon Johnson is doing more for them than he is for the people that voted him in. But I can't feel bad for them because they knew what he stood for. He told everybody what he stood for.
I mean, 27 shelters. We have literally built an entire infrastructure for an international crisis that Congress hasn't figured out.
Alderman Vasquez, who strongly believes the city should not be in the business of evicting people, says there needs to be a better coordinated effort in helping migrants get jobs.
Ultimately, to solve the problem, you need to have folks get work authorization, right? So that needs to be ramped up and expanded so people can find their own places to live.
And on Tuesday, January 30th, Alderman Vasquez will be chairing a committee hearing on migrants where the Johnson administration will be testifying. Vasquez hopes by then the mayor will make a decision to extend the February 1st deadline.
What's good, Shadow Realm? It's your boy Jenquavius Jackson, and y'all already know I'm demonetizing shadow banning this bitch. So if you want to contribute, go to the Cash App, the PayPal, the GoFundMe, or join the Patreon. Also, don't forget to visit the merch store for all your favorite BGZM News 17 gear, including our exclusive Trump is a Blood t-shirt. Go fast before they sell out. They are already flying off the shelves, no cap. And remember, these super gremlins are on demon time.
I know folks may have questions about my style, but don't question my leadership.
Mayor Brandon Johnson goes on the defensive over how he's handled the migrant crisis. With the lack of funds to open any new city shelters, Johnson would not say whether he will extend the February 1st deadline that evicts migrants from shelters after 60 days.
We're going to work really hard to continue to find as many options as we possibly can so no one has to be out on the street.
Earlier this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker said he's very concerned about the lack of new shelters for migrants in Chicago. The state has allocated an extra $160 million to help, but Pritzker says he's waiting on the city for a plan.
The city has not told the state where they would like us to put our resources to build new shelters or help them build new shelters. So we can't help if they don't identify those locations.
Wow, man. They got every excuse in the book. Every excuse in the book. It is crazy.
Johnson says the city has given the state several shelter location sites, and the mayor reminded the governor the state could use the money to build a shelter anywhere.
Shelters do not have to solely be set up and built in the city of Chicago. The state can do it wherever they want.
Despite the back and forth, Johnson says he and the governor are not at odds with each other over the migrant crisis. Meantime, Edgewater residents sent a letter to the mayor demanding that the Broadway Armory be returned to the neighborhood as a community center. For the past 6
So they're trying to turn Broadway Armory Park to a community center and return it back to what it once was. I mean, the illegal immigrants have come in and completely revamped you guys' city. And all the hood ninjas in Chicago, they ain't doing nothing. Talking about, you gotta check in, you gotta check in. None of these illegal aliens checked in.
6 months, it has housed over 300 migrants.
There was so many programs at the Armory that have been shut down. We've been really left out of the loop, per se. We've reached out to the city numerous times.
The city promised residents it would reevaluate the Armory as a shelter by February 1st, but 48th Ward Alderman Lenny Mana-Hoppenworth doubts the building will be returned to residents anytime soon.
The Broadway Armory is going to continue to be a migrant shelter, but that is not going to stop us from continuing to talk to our colleagues and our administration.
And there are 28 migrant shelters in Chicago, and all are full. Earlier this week, the mayor met with about 25 suburban mayors. He asked for their help with the crisis in any way they can. And the city may be helped a little bit because the buses have slowed down. I think today they expected one.
Yeah, wait till the warm.
Welcome back. We are learning much more about the migrant crisis right here in Chicago. I spoke with Christina Passioni-Zayas, the city's first deputy chief of staff. She gave me insight on how the crisis is impacting the city and the state financially. Already this week, 41 buses have rolled into Chicago, and that means there are now 11,000 migrants living in shelters. 4,000 are still sleeping on police station floors and staying at the airport. Now, this is really startling. 30% of migrants here in Chicago are children. Majority of them are attending Chicago public schools. Right now, the state is footing the bill for what they call temporary housing, apartments and homes that are rented out for migrants. The state is paying on the high end $9,000 in rental assistance over a 6-month period of time. With that comes help moving in and a starter kit to furnish the apartment.
That rent lasts for 6 months, and ideally people would have started their legal process, secured legal work authorization, and then be able to sustain that apartment. And so the cost, or I guess the payment towards the landlord, is based on market rate. It's based on the configuration of the apartment, how many rooms, where it's located, all of those things. And so it kind of varies from place to place.
We ran out of time, but I did reach out to the city to see how many asylum seekers are currently taking advantage of the rental assistance program. We haven't heard back from the city on that. The city put $4 million towards helping migrants get temporary housing. The state added $38 million to that. And right now, there are only 30 to 40 case management workers from Catholic Charities working to get thousands of migrants temporary housing. And I'm told there's a push to hire more. Scott?
All right, so we got the reports of the illegal alien issue. Now let's hear how black women feel about Mayor Brandon Johnson continuing the sanctuary city legislation and allowing illegal aliens to receive monies, per diems, stipends, whatever you want to call it, so that they can move into Chicago and take up all the resources of taxpaying citizens.
Chicago and Illinois government, listen to me and listen to me clearly. Like, for real, tune the fuck in, because I'm telling y'all right now, y'all finna start a fucking riot. And I do mean a real fucking riot. Mayor Brandon, you better fucking listen. We are sick of y'all shit. Explain to me how it is that you closed down 5 schools because you say that there's no state or city government funding to keep the schools open for the public, but somehow, some way, y'all got the fucking the money to open up 2 of those schools to the Ukrainian refugees and 2 of the other schools to the motherfucking the Venezuelan refugees.
Okay, so for one, you have to stop calling them refugees. I can understand the Ukrainian refugee thing because they're actually fleeing a war zone. However, the illegal aliens from Venezuela, yes, they're fleeing economic turmoil, but they're crossing through multiple different Latin American countries to get to the United States. So these are not refugees, okay? These are not refugees. These are super burrito gremlins on demon time.
But you can't find the money to fix it for the fucking people who fucking live here. But the fact that they are here and our government is giving more to them than they will ever give to the people who was born here is really starting to piss us off. Oh, and Mayor Brandon, hi, how are you? We coming for your ass. Oh yeah, we
cap. Lies on top of lies on top of lies. Black women ain't coming for Mayor Brandon Johnson. Y'all love him. Y'all love that brother. And when he runs again for mayor, y'all gonna vote him back in just like you did last year. Stop lying. Y'all love that brother. Just because y'all over here complaining about his policies and all this kind of stuff, y'all know once he start talking that blackity black, it's OV. Once he pull up to an AME church and gives a sermon, it's OV.
Coming for your ass because you lied the hardest. And the crazy part is I kept on telling people not to vote for your ugly four-eyed ass, and they did, because you was gonna come up in this bitch like another coon ass Lori Lightfoot, and look at what the fuck happened, you big ass coon. Now explain to me why the fuck it is that I wake up today and I see a box truck a literal 12-foot white box truck sitting out in front of the building, and it's Latinos coming out of the fucking truck and going into the building.
And y'all voted for this, so like, what is your point? Like, all of this is, I mean, it's the standard. It's the standard you created, especially black women, because they voted for Mayor Johnson overwhelmingly, I think at like a 96% tick. So, I mean, what are we talking about here? This is exactly what y'all asked for. Mayor Brandon Johnson, one thing about him, he didn't tell one lie. He told you he was going to be soft on crime. He told you that he believed in illegal aliens in sanctuary cities. He told you that he believed in defunding the police and reforming the criminal justice system. He told you that he was going to remove the ShotSpotter program during his campaign. And what did y'all do? Y'all lined y'all black asses up and voted for him. Don't feel bad for you one bit.
How is this possible? What? You could not give the funding to the person who previously owned it to keep the building open for low-income housing, for people who are from Chicago who cannot afford it here, because this is not a cheap-ass city, okay? It's expensive as fuck to live here. You could not give the funding to that man to help the Chicagoan people, but somehow, someway, y'all got that $9,000 going to each one of these refugee families, and guess what the fuck happened? They buying up every fucking thing. But at the same time, y'all put us through the motherfucking ringer for us to even try to attempt to purchase something in Chicago or Illinois. Y'all have no idea how hard it is to really buy some shit in fucking Chicago, especially on the south side. But these refugee families getting $9,000 a fucking family could come in and buy up every fucking thing. We sick of y'all.
Yep.
We sick of y'all. Hey, government, Chicago and Illinois government, motherfucking baby, Brandon, Pritzker, we sick of y'all shit. Somebody better come fix it. Somebody better come fix it, because if I get my ass out here on my soapbox, baby, fix it. I'm sick of y'all.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.